live, 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 live. Yes, yes, live, live, live. Yeah, we should be live, 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 going live. Yes, yes, going live. Yes, just checking it's all working live. So let's. So I just turned off Facebook in the background there because you can probably hear me singing away. I think I've cracked it. I think I've cracked it, folks. It's the order. It's the order. So I'm going to leave it like this. It's not perfect because it's showing the sides on the side and it's not exactly how I want it to be. But you know what? I've got it working and I'm really pleased because I can see on my phone. I'm just going to check. Whoa! Take that down. So I can see on my phone. I can see that I'm live in the group. I can see that you can see the slides. And I've left me up there, just a little picture of me in the corner. So welcome. I'm really sorry it's late. I'm so sorry it's late. I'm so sorry it's late. I'm so sorry. I have spent ages this morning sorting it out. And the reason that it would not work was because it all has to be done in a certain order. And because I didn't do it in the right order, guess what? It wasn't working. And I knew it had to be something straightforward and simple. So welcome, 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 welcome. I'm Jay. I'm Jill Wigmore-Welsh, if we haven't met before. Happy Jill. And I've done some slides for you. I have a package of program that I deliver to people. And I've taken some of the slides from that program to put together for you. And I've put this together in this format so that it can stay up in the group and then it can be taken down, it can be used as a resource or whatever. So the aim of this is to assist you to have some better sleep. So what we're going to be doing is going through some simple, straightforward information that means that you have the basics. So these are some of the things that successful anxiety managers do and good sleepers do as well. So whether you have poor sleep because you have pain or poor sleep because you have anxiety of any type of description, and there are many different forms of anxiety. I think it's about 5 or 6 basic types, which I could go into another day. So we can just go, that should work if I go through, or if I just do this, we should go to the next slide. Yay! So this is what we're going to cover. We're going to cover the relationship between anxiety and bad sleep, why sleep is so important, how much you need, bit about personal risk and society impact of bad sleep and bad sleep versus insomniacs. We're going to cover a little bit of this, but as I say, some of this is taken from a much bigger presentation. So some we won't cover today because this isn't going to apply. But certainly there is a huge relationship between anxiety and bad sleep. And sleep is incredibly important. You cannot function without sleep. I will tell you exactly how much sleep you need. And you can argue with me if you like. You can put comments below and say that you don't think you need that much sleep. But just a little bit about the risks and what happens to society in terms of bad sleep. And maybe we'll just touch a little bit on bad sleep versus insomniacs. And then most especially, I'm going to be covering a little bit about what you can do. That's for the majority of people, the how, which is the name of this group. How to get less anxiety and pain. So this is a how group. So let's just move on. So the relationship between anxiety and bad sleep. How many people watching or listening to this can remember a time when they had so many thoughts running through their head that they just could not get good sleep? Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever found that you have an important meeting coming the next day and you still don't get enough to sleep? Or you're going off to on holiday and you're so excited or nervous, just can't get enough to sleep? Or maybe you've got an exam coming or a presentation if you're in business. And no matter how much people say, oh, I don't get affected by anxiety, everyone does, because anxiety is something that happens in relation to fear. So whether you're someone who's more, let's say, susceptible to being anxious, or you're someone who does a lot of presentations, anxiety is present and it really interrupts sleep. So it can make you wake up in the night. It can mean that you don't wake up in the morning feeling as if you've had a great night's sleep. And unfortunately, that can really impact your health. So there is a huge relationship between anxiety and bad sleep, and around the other way, bad sleep and anxiety. Because when you have bad sleep, it can make you feel very irritable, very tired, very grumpy. It literally makes your brain not feel as if it's functioning well. So when you're not well and you miss out on getting good sleep, that can also impact your mental health. So there is a huge relationship between anxiety and bad sleep and anxiety. So why is sleep so important and how much do you need? Well, sleep is incredibly important because sleep is the time when you, if you like, heal and mend your system. It's also a time when your unconscious mind is making sense of all the information that's coming during the day. So it's working while you're asleep. So your mind doesn't sleep. Your mind, your unconscious, your system is working 24/7. So if you have dreams and you know that is your unconscious mind, your system creating dreams, and your unconscious mind, that part of you which is not asleep, is keeping your heart rate going, your digestion working, it's keeping your cells active, so you don't stop working when you go to sleep. There's a lot happening, and sleep is really, really important for your health. So if you miss out on sleep for a few days or you're sleep deprived, and that has an enormous impact. And we know that you need to spend roughly a third of your life sleeping, between 8 and 9 hours for adults. So if you don't get 8 or 9 hours sleep every night, and if you think about that, that's nearly 60 hours sleep, or around 60 hours sleep a week. If you are creating what we call a sleep deficit, well, then it's going to really impact your system. It's going to make you more prone to having accidents. It's going to stop you from being able to concentrate so easily. And it's generally just going to interfere with every type of function that you have. If you've got to operate machinery, drive, The incidence of people falling asleep at the wheel because they're tired, or just falling asleep almost at work in the afternoon when they're tired. So sleep is incredibly important. And anyone who says to you, oh, I don't need sleep, it's not true. It's not true. You know, it might be that they have a problem with sleep and they're saying, well, you know, I've got used to it. But, you know, if you don't get your 8 or 9 hours sleep every night, then you have got a problem with sleep. And there are a lot of problems that you can have, sleep apnea, for example, that can mean that you don't sleep very well at nighttime. But everybody needs sleep. And we know research shows, and that's why I can say quite categorically, hand on heart, you need 8 or 9 hours sleep every night. If you miss a couple of hours and you miss another hour, you're going to build up a sleep deficit. And the only way to get around a sleep deficit is to sleep. So sleep is incredibly important for your health, for your healing, for your mental health, for your physical health, for your relationships, for the way in which you interact with other people. If you're not sleeping, and it's not helping you to stay well, it's going to impact your immune system. And adults need 8 or 9 hours sleep. It's only when you get probably over the age of 75 you maybe need an hour a night less, or an hour a day less. If you don't have enough sleep during the day, then you can make up by, say, having a sleep in the afternoon. Perhaps not a good routine to get into, but you need to have your 8 or 9 hours. I've already touched on the personal risks and society impact of bad sleep. Personal risk to your health is high. And as I say, if you have pain or you have anxiety troubles, then if you're not getting good sleep, that will magnify the problems that you're getting. So you will feel worse if you're not getting good sleep. And the society impact is huge because of the impact it has on accidents at work, accidents on great big construction sites. There's a lot of evidence of human error associated with fatigue, and some of the biggest accidents that you could possibly look into. Some of the, I think it was the Challenger accident or the near accident. So there's been all sorts of incidents, the Chernobyl, the nuclear plant, all sorts of accidents and incidents cause huge risk, not just in economic risk, but loss of life. People being tired, not concentrating, accidentally running into the back of another car, accidentally not seeing a motorbike and turning right in front of the motorbike, or the motorcyclist being tired, or a cyclist or a pedestrian feeling tired, walking down the road, stepping off the curb in front of somebody. These are all real risks. If you are tired, you are not switched on. If you're driving down the road and you start daydreaming and you're sleepy, you can have an accident. So, you know, the society impact of bad sleep is enormous. And in fact, one of the things that's emerged recently is that people working from home, not actually having to travel so much, might be getting better sleep. Because if you've got a long way to go and you've got to get up really early in the morning to get there, and it may be that you're not actually fitting in that number of hours that you need to into your day. So there's huge risks associated with not getting good sleep. And the difference between bad sleepers and insomniacs, this is an interesting one. Obviously, there are occasions where people have got health problems, as I said, sleep apnea, or there can be times where they have a very chronic problem with bad sleep and maybe labeled an insomniac. But one of the ways I differentiate as somebody who works with people the whole time, and I work with you the whole time to assist you to get better sleep, is I say that sometimes bad sleepers have bad habits. And a bad habit is something that you can correct and change. And I always suggest to people, and I suggest to you, that the first thing that you do if what's happening is that you are not getting good sleep, is that you actually begin to start to come in and tackle this from the perspective of those things that you really, really, really do have control over. And there are a lot of things that you can do to change some of the habits. And if you start to change some of those things, even if you have problems with your breathing, if you're somebody who has chronic respiratory problems, heart problems, problems with restless legs, if you have menopause symptoms, if you have pain in the night, you can still make changes to your habits which will improve the quality of the sleep that you're getting. So one really good way to begin to look at this is to ask yourself and review what habits you've got into with your sleep. And this is something that if you're someone who says, I don't need 8 or 9 hours sleep, I can manage on 5 perfectly well. And maybe that's a habit you've got into. So how can you help yourself? What can you do? This is probably the biggest question. Well, what can I do? How can I do this? And I can give you a list of things that you can do, but sometimes monitoring what you do and being supported to actually do those things are two different things. So information is to a penny. I'm going to give you some information today, perhaps a bit later on, because of what's gone on with the recording today. I might come back in and do a bit more later. But there are things you can do for yourself. But the first thing you've got to do is you have got to want to change, and you have got to want to review how you're doing what you're doing. It's the same as me this morning, right? I knew it had to be something that I was doing that was stopping me from being able to stream this and me into the group. I knew it had to be something I was doing. All right. And I tried just about every which way. I've even posted into a group this morning, truthfully, going, any StreamYard and Zoom experts out there who really know how to do this? And then I thought about it and I thought, no, I'm going to try again. And one of the things that I possess is tenacity. And if you possess tenacity as well, in other words, you are just not going to give up on something. When you possess tenacity, you're willing to really have a good go. So that's why I've got this slide. You can do a lot. You can do a lot to assist and make changes to the way that you sleep. You can do a lot. Or you can sit and say, oh, there's nothing I can do. I've always had bad sleep. It's not going to work. Because you do have to want to. I once had somebody at a networking do, and I made this really big mistake because he was someone with a big sleep problem. And I said I work with people who have problems with their sleep. Oh, I've had a big problem with my sleep. And it became quite, a competition. He was almost saying to me, oh, you can't make me any better. And actually, the thing is that he didn't really want to change. He had everything set up. In fact, he used to get up in the night when his family were asleep, and he'd do a lot of work. So although he wasn't getting sleep, it worked really well for him to be able to get up in the night. The only problem there is he wasn't actually getting the sleep he needed. But there is a lot you can do. There is an enormous amount you can do. So what areas? And I'm going to show you now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 9, 10 areas there. So there's a lot you can do before we begin to start to think about making shifts and changes to your the way your mind, if you've got anxiety, what you're lying there thinking about. There's a whole load of other stuff to get sorted out first. So the first thing to be beginning to start to take account, if this is going to stay up during the day, you're welcome to take a screenshot of this if you want to, is your environment, where you live, where you are, where you are in terms of your actual place you sleep, and the house you have, and the home you have, how it's set up, the actual bedroom you have. There's a lot that can be done there. And if I haven't put all these slides in one by one later so I can talk about them, I'll come back. There's a lot to do with time management, because if you've got to fit up a third of your life into sleep, because it's like the old-fashioned 8-8-8, you know, 8 hours work, 8 hours rest, 8 hours play. But a lot of people now, you know, they're working until, I don't know, a lot of people have got 2 jobs, 3 jobs, or they've got children, they're up in the night. So really managing your time and being aware of what's going on. This is huge. This is huge. You could just choose that one. You don't have to choose all of these. And this is why I say, but if you are going to be beginning to start to think about your sleep and how important it is to you, especially if you've got anxiety because of this cycle, if you've got anxiety and your mind is racing, or you're worrying, or you're lying awake, or you're finding you're overtaken by dread. And I know I've been there years ago. I used to have what I called mind turmoil, and it just used to keep me awake. And then I learned how to control it, and then I learned how to overcome it, and now I don't have any problems with it. So I like to help and work with people who've got anxiety issues, because I know it's something that you can get into a manageable state. I don't know. So exercise, food and drink. Oh gosh, yes. Yeah, exercise, food and drink, what you eat, when you eat it, what you drink, how much water you drink, how much alcohol you have, how much exercise you take during the day. It's huge, massive things you can do. Your mindfulness mind work, as I call it, and your mindfulness body work, 2 areas that I train a lot you can do. The way that you relate and communicate with other people. How often do you find that you lie in bed at night time and you're actually running over things that have gone on during the day, or arguments or conversations, or things that should and shouldn't have done, or talking to yourself about, oh, I've got to get that money sorted, or bills, or worrying about an appointment that you've got. If you've got medical anxiety, you might have an appointment with a hospital. You're lying worrying about it. What about your beliefs and your values and your worth? This is really important, because I touched on this just now. If you really, 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 really don't believe there's anything you can do, then, or you don't want to, and how much you value yourself, how much you value your own house. On Saturday, I was tired, and I decided that I was going to have a rest day, which I did. I did some cooking, totally relaxing, chilled out, watched some Netflix. Had an easy day. Didn't anticipate this morning I'd be getting up and spending so much time messing around with Zoom. But hey, I know how to do it now. And your worth, that's really important. Not being bullied, not being pushed around, not being told what to do by people. It's really important. Having good, strong boundaries. You know, sometimes I hear of people who are in abusive relationships or controlling relationships, and that's very upsetting. And love is incredibly important, how much you love yourself. And I have a phrase called well wholeness. In other words, how you are in the whole of yourself, in the whole of your life, interactions with everybody. So these are all of these, if you think about it, all of each of these there are things you can do. And in fact, last time I ran one of these, a 5-day challenge all around this, and I was giving people things to take away and practice. What happened was that someone found one thing. They took one thing, just one thing, and that's what they focused on. And they're going to get that cracked. I thought that's a really good idea. So if what happens is that you decide that you're going to say just one thing, that's great. And this picture I found, and I thought it was great because this is like, oh my God, everything's going on in my head, but oh, just stay away. No. So you got to be open also to having people giving you ideas, people suggesting things, even if it's not something that you think is, even if it's not something that you think is, oh, it doesn't, I've tried that, it doesn't work. But, you know, keep open. You don't know. Beliefs, this really, I've brought this right up to the top. Because whatever you believe, you really, really believe, like the guy I was talking to you about, the story I said about the chap who really was quite confrontational with me at a networking do with regard to that I wasn't going to be able to change things. Really, his belief was that nobody could do anything. And we know that in healthcare, what you really, really believe, truly believe, and the people around you keep telling you has a massive impact on the outcome you achieve. So I always say to people, be careful who you mix with, because if you're mixing with a lot of other people who keep telling you, oh, it can't change, or oh my gosh, yes, that started for me 20 years ago and that's never gone away, you know. So don't stay around them. Go and find some people who might be a bit more supportive. Because with your beliefs, you could need to question your beliefs sometimes. Do you really like the person who says, oh, I'm fine, I only need 4 or 5 hours sleep, until they have something go wrong with their health? And then they have to have time off work and they have to sleep. And I had one guy once, and he had worked for years in London, going up to London every day from where I live and come back down. And what it was he was actually absolutely exhausted. He was grey. He'd had big surgery and not recovered. Anyway, got a good outcome. But he suddenly realized he was absolutely exhausted. And the reason he wasn't mending is because he just didn't have any resources left. And in fact, again, it's a long story, I can tell you another time, but he was working for a bank, he was very well paid, one of my private clients, and he did take my advice and stop working. And after about 2 weeks, he suddenly realized he quite liked being at home and having a cup of tea in the morning with his wife. And anyway, cut a long story short, the opportunity, when he did go back to work, the opportunity came around for early retirement, early redundancy. He took it with both hands, and that was it. Having had that couple of weeks or so at the start where he just acclimatized and then taking time to get better, he realized that actually he didn't want to work the way he'd worked before. He was like working flat out for so he changed his beliefs. So coming back to these, you'll notice, as I say, I've brought the beliefs one and the love one. I want to bring it from the bottom to the top, because, you know, unless you really, really, really believe there's a possibility that this can change, and you begin to start to mix with people who are going to say, yes, you can do something, which is why this group is positive, proactive. Also that you're worth it. You are worth it. And you love yourself enough to do it. You really love yourself enough to do it, because you have to love yourself to do this kind of work. So beliefs, values, and work I've talked about, I can talk about for ages. There's so many processes that we can do to assist you to make shifts and changes to your beliefs and your values. Your love and your wholeness, I mean, of all of these things, loving yourself is absolutely critical. Recognizing that if somebody's being abusive, or if you're in a situation at work where people are actually telling you how you should be, or you're not earning much money, or you're in a bad relationship, that loving yourself and really accepting who you are is incredibly important. So, and if you're just joining and you've got any questions or whatever, just put a message in below. Relating and communicating. Now, during the day, and as I say, I've moved these from the bottom to the top, because how you talk to yourself in your head is relating. How you communicate with yourself. How you spend your time talking to yourself. It's very important. So let's come right down to the very basics of the things that you can do, because if you're wanting to make changes to the way that you think, the way that you talk to yourself, the amount of love you have for yourself, this is inner work. This is inner work, and you need to go inside yourself to do it. But you know, there are basic things that you can work on with your environment that mean that you can create an area of comfort and safety in your home. So how comfortable and calm and relaxing is your bedroom, your sleeping area? Is it cluttered? Is it jumbled? What sort of color scheme do you have? Is it like loads of bright colors? Is there a way you could make it more calming, more comfortable, comfy? If you're somebody who gets pain, is there a way that you could actually put a more comfortable topper on the bed, get more comfortable pillows, ensure that you're actually feeling supported so that you can really relax yourself? Do you feel safe if you're sharing the house? You've got a lock on the door. Or can the dog come and jump on you in the night? Can the window be left open safely? Or do you have to be slightly hypervigilant? What about screens? Do you have a TV screen in your bedroom? Do you have lots of mirrors? Do you have thick curtains on the windows so that you can blanket out the light? What about sound? There are lots of sounds around. Maybe if you have to work shifts, other people in the house maybe getting up and going to work at about the time you want to go to sleep. And if you've got young children, maybe they need to get off to school, and it's just about the time when you're coming in from work, and maybe you take over a shift. Come in from work, you drop the children into school, and then you need to go to bed to have a sleep during the day, and then you do something else, and then you go into work. But actually, maybe you're not getting those 8 or 9 hours sleep. There's an enormous amount that you can do with your environment. There's an enormous amount that you can do to enable you to have a space that you can actually be in that feels comfortable, safe, that is the right temperature, not too hot and not too cold. It doesn't have drafts. So that as you move through the day, as you begin to start to get towards bedtime, nighttime, you start to switch off all the stimulus, all the screens, all the lights, and you start to take your system into the natural falling asleep process. So you have to actually set your environment up in order for your system to feel safe. And they say that your bedroom should only be used for sex and sleep. There we go. No lying, watching the screens, having the telephone light flashing in the night. Is there a flashing light outside the window? Maybe the lights when the emergency services vehicles go by, maybe they wake you up sometimes or disturb you. Maybe sometimes you hear road noise outside and that wakes you and you don't feel safe. A lot you can do with your environment, huge amounts. What about your time? Your time management. You've got to fit in 8 or 9 hours sleep. So how are you going to manage that? How are you going to fit that into your day? How are you actually going to fit in sleeping for that length of time? You're going to need to have to know. You're going to need to have to know what time you need to get up in the morning to go to work, or in the evening if you're going off to, if you work shifts or nights. So what time do you actually have to be asleep to get that 8 or 9 hours in? Have you sat down and worked it out? What about if you're sharing with a partner who works a different schedule to you? You need to take roughly an hour before you go to sleep to get yourself prepared. So if you need to be asleep at 10 o'clock at night, you need to be preparing for sleep at 9 o'clock. For some people that I work with, that can seem extraordinary, the idea that you've got to be actually going off to sleep like that time of night. You do. Exercise, food and drink. Well, if you're not taking much exercise, then really you're not helping yourself to burn up some of that, maybe a little bit stressy, anxious energy during the day. However, you don't want to be taking any exercise within about an hour or so of getting yourself prepared to go to sleep. And the reason for that is that you want your system to be calming down. So no going out for a run, no taking the dog out for a walk really late at night, no going to the gym and then thinking you're going to go to sleep. Have structure in your exercise and when you eat and when you drink to fit in with the fact that you don't want your system to be digesting food at the time when actually you want to be going off to sleep. You don't want to go to bed and you've got pizza or curry or that you're digesting, because you won't get a good night's sleep. And you want to drop and cut right back on the alcohol before you go to bed. These are all inside your control. The mindfulness mind work and the mindfulness body work are processes that I train people in. I train people to understand how to use mindfulness. I use mindfulness-based cognitive therapy approaches. I use mindfulness training approaches that you can use. And I also train a form of mindfulness-based bodywork, which involves you actually using yourself very subtly and softly. And you can lull yourself to sleep with it. If it's something you want to know more about, when you've watched this, put a note in the comments below, and I'll come back in and tell you more. So there's lots more to come. But if we go back, I'm just going to go back again and let's just recap. There is so much that you can do to review the environment, your time management, the way that you're exercising and eating and drinking during the day, whether you're bringing in any form of mindfulness to settle your thinking, if there is some very gentle movement work, which I can show you that you can do, how you're getting along with other people, your beliefs, your values, your worth, and how much you love yourself to take time to put all of this into place. So if there's anyone still on, then I'm happy to take some questions, if there are any questions there. And it may be that you come in later on and you listen to this and you have some questions. If so, then leave them in the comments below and put the hashtag replay. Have a lovely rest of the day. I'll be in again later on today, I'll pop in to see if there are any questions, and I'll answer those if anyone's left any questions. If you have any questions, this will stay up in the group. If you have any questions about anything I've spoken to today, then put a comment below. Take care. Love you all. And I'm going to stop the share. And if there's no one there, don't think we have. There's nobody on the live. I can see I've got my phone up. There's no one on the live. Then I'll come in later and see if there are any messages. Love you. Take care.